the government overreach required to criminalize what would be considered normal standard of care in other countries cannot be ignored. When medicine becomes a crime, patients suffer. It is only a matter of time before it affects something completely outside of the topic we're discussing today and impacts you or someone you care about in a life-altering way. We are getting reports today that a midwife from my home state of Texas has been arrested for providing what would be considered evidence-based and standard medical care in most parts of the world, particularly in places that would be comparable to the United States. Here's why criminalizing healthcare is dangerous, even if you are opposed to the current healthcare that is being criminalized. So Ken Paxton today, on Monday, the 17th of March, has announced the arrest of a Texas-based midwife for the alleged crime of providing illegal abortions and for supposedly practicing medicine without a license. The midwife's name is Maria Margarita Rojas, and from everything I can find, which admittedly is very limited information, this person provides care to a population who is primarily Spanish-speaking outside of Houston. That, I think, in and of itself is important, and let it not be lost on us who the first person that they went after for this was providing care to in a place where care in general is already hard to access, particularly for people who are Spanish-speaking and or who are lower income and seeking that care without having to leave the state. Now, what she has actually done, we don't know. We don't have details. My suspicion, this is a witch hunt, and there is a whole lot more that goes into it than just the law, which I have ad nauseum gone over why it is both dangerous and not okay, and sets a really scary precedent for access to a whole lot of other healthcare procedures. I have a plethora of information about that. But what we need to talk about today is what happens when we start criminalizing healthcare to the point of arresting people who are healthcare providers. She faces up to 20 years in prison and up to $10,000 in fines for each occurrence. And again, we have a paucity of details regarding what exactly has been done and what these charges are based on, but that's where we're standing right now. We need the information and details, but no amount of information or details is going to make me change anything I'm saying in this video, which is this is dangerous precedent that will affect everybody, and you should care about it even if you oppose elective or all abortions. Let me tell you why. I already have several videos discussing why the laws themselves are dangerous, from delays in emergency medical care to people leaving states that have restricted regulations, and those states tend to already have a lack of access to healthcare in general, and especially a lower number of OB/GYN providers per person and per capita than other states. We've also discussed how fears of legal repercussions make it really difficult to practice medicine, an inherent gray area. That's why it's the practice of medicine when you are trying to do that within the confines of black and white, often confusingly written legal statutes. Let us also now then move into why this is a dangerous precedent, starting with a little bit of historical context. Medicine is based on science, training, and educational principles that we all learn in the course of our journey to be provided with the ability to actually practice medicine. Making these legal statutes allows the government to supersede evidence-based medicine and expert care. And now we have moved into the realm of not only overriding evidence-based medicine, but putting people in jail for continuing to provide care that people need. Criminalizing medical care is not new, and we can see through history that it has almost exclusively been used as a means to control the population rather than a way to provide any kind of patient protection or actual protection to the population or even to the providers who are in healthcare professional fields. We also have seen historically that the amount of healthcare criminalization, particularly with regards to arrests being made and formal charges being laid down, is directly correlated to the degree of authoritarianism that a government is employing. We saw this in Nazi Germany with forced eugenics, where doctors who went against the forced eugenics, meaning they wouldn't sterilize people based on their ethnicity or race or sexual orientation or whatever it was, and they were arrested. That is a direct trickle down of an authoritarian government. It does not serve a purpose of patient protection in any way, and in fact, endangers people in the general population. HIV and AIDS, we were arresting people in various places in the world for providing care to patients who had HIV and AIDS. This was absolutely not done as any way of protecting patients or people in general. It was control. In El Salvador, we've seen a trickle down of doctors being arrested for providing care of miscarriages. There is a lot of overlap between miscarriage care and abortion care. In fact, almost exclusive overlap. It is the same. And when you start arresting people for providing abortion care, you're going to naturally see some people also being arrested for providing miscarriage care, and the fear of providing that care is going to trickle down. You've also seen this in various places in the world where they have similarly restrictive laws, people being arrested for providing contraceptive care or just general basic reproductive health care. And the more you see it in abortion, which is where it tends to start, you start seeing the trickle down, and it will affect someone around you at some point, I promise. Even if you oppose abortion, opening the door to criminalizing medical care based on political ideology or religion or whatever it is has a trickle down of allowing this slippery slope of other things to be eventually restricted. And at some point, I promise, it will be something that you do care about, even if you don't care about this. It could be IVF, it could be hormone replacement therapy after menopause, it could be contraception, any number of things. But I promise the slope is only down, and at some point, it will be something that you or someone that you care about needs and wants to be provided from the healthcare establishment. At some point, you'll start seeing people who aren't even providing this care caught in the legal crossfire. Wrongful prosecutions for people who are just providing normal medical care that hasn't been targeted yet will definitely be a problem as well. And arbitrary enforcement of these laws is, that will absolutely happen. There's no way you can enforce this and it not be arbitrary. The government overreach required to criminalize what would be considered normal standard of care in other countries cannot be ignored. This is a matter of government overreach. And if you are choosing to focus on the ideology of, I believe that life starts at this point or that point or whatever, that is really ignoring the bigger issue of the historical context of this, the authoritarianism and the use of criminalizing certain healthcare as a means of controlling a population, and the very real outcome of losing access to other healthcare needs. The people who provide abortion care are the people who provide a lot of other care. And when you start taking them out, plucking them up for providing evidence-based medicine to their patients, you're losing your ability to access everything else that we provide as OB-GYN docs, as midwives, as nurses in reproductive healthcare fields. This is incredibly dangerous and will impact the entire population's health over time. I cannot reiterate enough how important it is to take the personal feelings of this one topic out of it and consider what government overreach to this degree leads to in a trickle-down effect. When medicine becomes a crime, patients suffer. And when you include the historical context of this, it is only a matter of time before it affects something completely outside of the topic we're discussing today and impacts you or someone you care about in a life-altering way. We've already seen that in the review from ProPublica of a myriad of different people who should still be alive and would be if not for the restrictive laws in their states. And I promise this only gets bigger and worse and impacts more and more innocent people as we continue to escalate it in this manner. Criminalizing healthcare also erodes and undermines public trust in their healthcare professionals. when the government's coming in and arresting people who you thought were providing you good care, you start questioning who actually has my best interest in mind. And we can look at the historical context to answer that question, but it's not quite as easy when it's on an individual level. And then what you see at mass scale is a direct impact on that incredibly important dynamic of patient and healthcare professional and the way that they interact. You start losing autonomy as a patient. You lose your ability to make your own medical decisions based purely on evidence-based information being given to you by experts, because you are now obligated to allow the government a seat at the table when deciding what is the best thing for you and your life and your healthcare. I just really urge you all to pay really close attention to what's going on here and to speak out against criminalizing healthcare, particularly to this degree. I'm against it in general. The government overreach is alarming, but we cannot start or support the idea of arresting people for providing healthcare that is objectively needed in this world. This is, I'm at a little bit of a loss for what to say. I don't even know if anything I've said in this video makes sense. It's just, this has truly panicked me because the precedent, the wide ripple effect, the impact on people I care about, my friends and family back in Texas, this is so scary. And I promise it is not going to stop at termination of pregnancy. You wanted illegal elective terminations and you got it, perfect. If that's all you care about, great. But I promise if that's all you care about, it's going to start impacting something else. It already has. Please pay attention to this. There is a reason that most countries and the US in the past has maintained a pretty strict delineation between healthcare and criminal prosecution. And it is because as we make practicing certain aspects of healthcare illegal, particularly when they're evidence-based and standard of care in most developed nations in the world, what we see is an impact on patients that is negative. Across the board, that is the outcome. And I implore you to pay attention to this and to keep your eyes open. This is a witch hunt, and it is not an accident who has become what will now be the face of this fight and what patients she was providing care to in Texas. Medical care should be safe, legal, and provided by doctors, not politicians. And I urge you to pay attention, use your voice, keep talking about this, and let me know if there's something else that you have questions about or want to comment on. We'll have to keep watching and see how this unfolds.